Welcome to EventUp, the place where people enthusiastic about events stay in the know on the latest trends within the events industry. Live, hybrid, and virtual experiences. From virtual events to conferences, award galas, and everything in between. Here's your host, Amanda Ma.
Hi, everyone. Our guest today is someone who knows how to drive real results in the world of sales and marketing. Joining us today is Glenn Chamoff, Head of Sales and Marketing at History Associates Incorporated, also known as HAI. Glenn brings over 2 decades of experience leading high-performing sales teams at companies like Unisys, CSC, and innovative software firms. What sets him apart is his ability to craft strategies that move the needle, from first touch to closing the deal, while becoming a trusted advisor to clients along the way. Since joining HAI in 2022, Glenn has been blending his passion for storytelling and history with cutting-edge marketing strategy to help organizations bring their legacies to life. And I just want to start off with, actually, Glenn and I know each other because we're the founding members of the Milestone Collective, and it's been such a pleasure to know him over the years. And for those of you that don't know him, he is super strategic. He is a master of his craft. So I'm very happy to have him on our EventUp podcast today.
Amanda, thanks so much. I appreciate that. It's great to be here. And as I mentioned to you before off camera, is that it's an absolute pleasure to work with you and your organization. Your team is amazing. And the work we're doing is a lot of fun and meaningful. So thank you.
All right. To kick things off, in the spirit of milestones, how about you walk us through how a successful anniversary or even milestone campaign comes to life? From conception to execution is such a big task, especially when companies are going through this. And I know we had a lot of conversations about this as well.
Yeah, it is. And it can be overwhelming, for a lot of organizations that are looking at their milestones. So a successful anniversary or milestone campaign, it really begins with a clear understanding of the organization's values and goals. At the Milestone Collective, we guide clients through a thoughtful, phased approach, right? So the first thing we do is we dive into discovery, interviewing stakeholders, researching archives, and aligning on what the milestone could achieve for them specifically. Next, we develop a creative vision, branding, messaging, and content, and that brings the story to life. Then we plan and execute meaningful experiences, things that you're very well aware of, events, campaigns, and legacy assets that engage audiences and celebrate the moments. Finally, we focus on the lasting impact, evaluating results and helping organizations integrate the milestone into ongoing storytelling and outreach. And you'll be hearing me talk about storytelling an awful lot because the basis of any of this is built around a past that leads to the present that looks to the future. And in short, it's about then not just marking a date, as we like to say on our website. It's using your history as a tool for connection, reflection, and that future growth. So that's what the key thing is. And I know that companies get very, very uptight about this because there's a lot of work involved, but the collective, you, me, and our other partners, we add a sense of calmness to this approach because we take it in phases. And that's the way that it should be taken.
And I love what you shared in regards to storytelling, because at the end of the day, storytelling is what sells. It doesn't feel like a hard sales, but it's what resonates with people, with consumers.
Absolutely right.
And as we shift from the Anniversary Collective to now the Milestone Collective, we also talk about we've been expanding our focus beyond just anniversaries, right? Because corporates are coming to us, it's beyond just anniversary. So we're now expanding that into all types of meaningful brand moments. And from your perspective, because you're such a veteran, why is it important that brands celebrate milestones more broadly? And how can we really help them unlock that creative or even that strategic opportunity at the same time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just a footnote for those who are listening, when Amanda and I and some of our other partners founded the Anniversary Collective, our focus wasn't necessarily just on organizations that were celebrating an anniversary, a 50-year, 7,500, whatever the case may be. It really was meant to be a milestone celebration. But what we were finding out is that we weren't getting those organizations who were transitioning leadership or product launch or a major achievement in their organizations. They're all very powerful because they create a natural pause, basically, pause point for reflection, storytelling, and connection, right? And when brands celebrate these moments intentionally, they not only honor the past, but they also create space to engage audiences. And they strengthen the culture and signal what's next. So they're broadening the focus beyond anniversaries, which opens up creative and strategic opportunities to reinforce brand values, rally stakeholders, and build momentum, all through the lens of a meaningful story. So this transition for us to go from the anniversary to collective to the Milestone Collective, very natural for us to do that. And this is something that we're actually launching formally this month, as you know, Amanda. You know, the Anniversary Collective has been running for the last 2 years, 2.5 years. But the new concept now with the Milestone Collective gives us internally an opportunity to spread our own wings as well and show really what we're capable of doing for those who are looking beyond just an anniversary. I hope that makes sense, right?
It totally does. And I just want to also say, the Milestone Collective is continuing to expand, right? We set up to do something, and it was really to fill the gap, to fill a pain point that all of us as an individual company were seeing from our clients. Because then, they'll find someone like a HAI, or they'll find someone like our agency, and then they need to build the partnership. With this, it's just so much easier. We're one-stop shop, so they could kind of have that collective coming in and that collective wisdom and knowledge as well. So I think it's been really great.
Yeah, well, when you think about that, I mean, HAI has been around for 45 years, a bit longer than your organization, right?
Yes.
But we've been around for 45 years. And the core business that we do is historical research, archiving work, collections, and so forth. And when companies come to us who are celebrating an anniversary, what used to be the case, and I made that case to you to beg you to join us because you're so talented in what you do, is that companies were looking at us and saying, great, you can research our history, you could find that thread that helps us along that journey, but can you also do social media? Can you do event planning? And we couldn't. And we weren't dropping the ball. We were just finding out that there's so much more to bringing this into fruition and helping people. So as you just mentioned, this one-stop shop really is the key for a lot of organizations. And they are amazed when they find out the capabilities that the overall collective has. And I think that really makes a difference for all of us now.
Definitely. And then how do you kind of further define the success of the Milestone campaign? I know we kind of mentioned a little bit before, it's such a daunting task for a lot of these companies, especially these big milestones. How do you ensure it aligns with the broader brand values and also its long-term business objectives?
Yeah, so we define success for a milestone campaign by how well it connects authentic storytelling to strategic outcomes, if that makes sense. That means going beyond just executing events or producing content. We measure success by the impact it has on things like brand perception, stakeholder engagement, internal alignment, and long-term visibility. It starts with a clear alignment. We work closely with leadership to understand the organization's broader goals, as mentioned at the beginning, whether that's culture building, donor cultivation, reputation enhancement, or market expansion. From there, we share the Milestone campaign to reflect brand values and reinforce those objectives across every touch point. We also set those tangible metrics like audience reach, media coverage, content engagement, or qualitative feedback. That tracks the performance. And importantly, we look to see what lasts. Are the stories, the assets, and momentum created during the milestone still resonating and being used a year later? Now that's the real success. So those are very important, and that's the real success that we will find. We have done some really cool work for several companies. As you know, they have engaged with us after that journey with that date of their anniversary. And they continue to work with us because timelines never stop. They continue. And so they need that consistency and they need that awareness for their own employees, their stakeholders, their customers. So that's very critical. And that's how we kind of value our organization, our collective, and also how we bring value to our companies that we serve.
Now, how about in terms of like balancing honoring the past while keeping the campaign fresh, modern, and relevant to today's audience? I know you and I have both gone through that with many of our clients as we're planning the milestones.
Yeah, that's always a huge challenge, right? Especially with a company like HAI. And I'll tell you why, to be perfectly frank. Because of who we are and our history, we are historians and archivists, and we love the past, right? And we love telling stories about the past. And what we also recognize, though, through organizations such as yourselves and everything, is that the present and the future is as or more important than what set the foundation for that company and who they are. So we strike that balance by grounding the campaign in authentic history, then translating it through modern formats, design, and audience-focused storytelling. It's about connecting values to today's context while showing it and how it informs the future. So many of the organizations that we have worked with have this tremendous past, and they don't know how to leverage it, right? And especially companies who are in the 100, 150, 200 years of existence. So many things have happened within their existence, both locally, regionally, nationally, and globally, that we actually tell those stories on how their company has changed focus, adapted, readapted themselves to meet the needs of the modern time. And that's very important when you're talking about the world wars that occurred and how companies stopped doing production the way they were and did other things to help the U.S. needs, at the time, the cause of the war. So we tell those stories and we find the people who have been associated to those stories, their grandparents, their great-grandparents and so forth, and we hear those stories through them. And that brings the heartstrings into that organization. And it shows them that they're more than just a manufacturer of XYZ product. They do a lot more, and they're a human company for their community, for the nation, and so forth. So those are very impactful. But it's always looking forward to the future on how they can be a part of any community.
That's so fascinating. Recently I actually dive into even the history of Netflix, which is not super old, but just the evolution of their history was so fascinating. As a business, how they evolved from like a DVD in the mailer to creating their own content now.
Yep, absolutely. And I was just going to say, and those kind of organizations too, they have to start doing that now in order to solidify what their past looks like and not forget it, right?
And capture that.
And
That's
capture
so great.
it, correct.
So Glenn, you guys have done so many big moments, like from Coca-Cola to Vanguard to Loomis Sales. I want you to pick one of your favorite. It's like picking your favorite child, right? But love for you to pick one of your favorite where it really stood out to you and really resonated to you in terms of the campaign. Feeling the pressure of planning your next big event? Let Innovate Marketing Group take the stress off your plate. From influencer events to influencer activations and powerful experiences, we create meaningful moments that drive real impact.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning those organizations. For several of those, we're continuing to provide services for even beyond their anniversary date or their actual milestones that they wanted to celebrate. And you're right, there are so many that we've been engaged in. When I think about these, sometimes I think about how it actually connects with me. And that's kind of hard to do at times, but we came upon an organization called Gillo. Hardly anybody knows who Gillo is, but if you lived in the United States for 100 years, you might know their product. And their product is basically balsa wood airplanes. They're the guys that when I was a child, my mom used to take me to the 5 and 10, this 5 and dime stores, and pick up a balsa wood airplane from Gillo. Never knew their name, but I knew they were just airplanes, and you'd put the wings on and the tail on and the little plastic nose at the front, and you'd fly it. And it'd run into a tree and it'd break, you'd splinter because it's only balsa wood, and you'd cry, and your mother would have to go and take you back to the store and buy a new one, and she'd tell you not to open it until we got home. So that was fine. They got in touch with us, and they're celebrating their 100th anniversary in 2026. And they're not a large organization. They're probably 60 or 70 people, Amanda. And so they have limited budgets. They have limited scope. They didn't have any real website presence, social media, or any of that. And they still wanted our help. And this became almost like a passion play for us. And everything resonated really well with us. Everybody within our organization and our partner company, Stout, at Billy Mitchell, who built their website, and he basically almost did it for free with what we normally charge, and we did it simply because this was a company that meant something to he and I. And one of the people over at Gillow said something that we will always remember, and it went right to our core being too. He said, all I want to do is have any of these kids who has a smartphone, to put them down for a half hour and go outside and play with one of our airplanes. And I just thought that was so meaningful and just from the heart. And so we work with them, and we have now continued to work with them, but they have engaged with us to promote their product not only into where they normally were, which is like an Ace Hardware store kind of situation where you can buy them, but basically to some of the conferences, conventions they have for toys and games and so forth. And they now have a presence there simply because of our involvement. So that means a lot. And now their investment with us, as in all clients, is showing an ROI. And that's a key thing. We never do anything without giving any of our clients the thought that we can improve their ROI, improve their hiring, make their stakeholders happier. There's a lot of reasons to engage with the Milestone Collective, and I know this is not a sales job, but we bring a lot to the table when it comes to this, and it's not just spending the money. It's an investment in a company's future. And so that's my biggest remembrance, if you will. Well, just because it impacted me well. And I hope I didn't take too long to tell that story, but it was certainly something that was valuable to us as an organization. We did really well by the client, and they did really well by me. So I was real happy about that.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it hits home, right? Because it resonated with you personally, but also the impact it made. And I really appreciate what you share about ROI. And definitely you guys are a value first company. So that's what makes you guys successful. And that's why you've been around for 40 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And switching gears a little bit, like in terms of, because history is so broad, right? Like, can you dive in a little bit deeper for the audience? Like what channels or platform tends to be the most effective, especially now we have so many different platforms that's available to us. So when it comes to these like milestone campaigns, how do you balance that digital engagement versus like the in-person or even like the experiential activation, Glenn?
Yeah, so this is where I'm not expert on. HAI is not that organization, but you and our other partner, Marketing Maven, does an excellent job on that. So the most effective milestone campaigns that we have been engaged in they are multi-channeled and strategically layered, right? So digital platforms, for instance, such as social media, campaign microsites, video series, and email. They're powerful for building awareness, telling your story at scale, and engaging audiences over time. In-person and experiential activations, such as what you do, like events, exhibits of installations, create emotional feelings for people and immersive moments that leave a lasting impression. Now, we balance the two by first understanding the audience and objectives and designing a cohesive strategy where each platform has a role. So digital extends reach and sustains engagements, while experience deepens connections and bring the story to life, basically. Together, they reinforce each other and ensure the milestone feels both meaningful and modern. And I have to tell you, and I'm sure you recall, you had us outside of the digital platform. You were engaged with an organization where your organization did the roundtable. They did a whole presentation at one location, and we were involved in them. And you basically set the tone on topics, audience, food catering, you did all of that. That was an experience that they never had before at the one location in DC. And so thank you for doing that, because after we had done all of the work of the historical, of the social media, of bringing people, the knowledge of what this company means and so forth, you brought it all together in a format where people were interacting with each other. And so those are very, very key critical components to this type of business that really energizes us and them. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I mean, it comes in full circle, right? You guys make it easy because a lot of time it takes a lot of digging. Like, what's your history? What's the story behind the brand?
Right.
And we don't sometimes like pulling teeth. So it really makes our job so much easier when we have a partner like HAI that already does all that pre-work, and we're able to take all that knowledge that's provided to us and incorporate it into the experiences as well.
Isn't there a situation, Amanda, that you guys did an event that had bridges in it, that you were bridging the gap?
It was the company's big 50th anniversary, and that was their theme. We were at the Academy Museum. So
There
then
you
they
go.
had to go from one place to another via a bridge, the Barbara Streisand Bridge, they call it. And then we branded the entire bridge as well with not only the company's branding, but also the fact that it's 50th. We want people to walk away knowing exactly what event they were at and how many events the brand was celebrating. So,
Yeah.
we did a little brainwashing.
It's necessary.
Yeah. And I love what you also mentioned before, like, so there's like diversity in how we kind of do the marketing mix, as well as amplifying the campaign message, right? And even leveraging like press, influencer, as well as paid media. You gave me like, through our conversation over the years, you also mentioned about involving, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier too, also involving not only internal, but also external audiences like their employees, their customers, and that could even be incorporated in like videos and other capacity as well when you're kind of weaving that whole history together.
Yes. So involving internal and external audiences, we do that by designing tailored engagement strategies that make each group feel seen, valued, and connected to the milestone. For employees, that might include ambassador programs, internal events, storytelling toolkits, or exclusive content that fosters pride and participation. For customers and communities, we create interactive campaigns, public events, or digital experiences that invite them into the story, often highlighting their role in their brand's journey. So the goal is to move from passive observation, which is important, to active involvement. Once they become involved, that means a world to them and to the companies who they're involved in. And it turns the milestone into a shared moment that strengthens the relationship and deepens the loyalty across all the audiences. One organization that we work for in North Carolina had not the greatest reputation in the world, but it was one where they've been around for a long time, about 150 years. And within their community, the community loved them. But outside of the community, they did not have a good reputation. So what we did is we brought that relationship within the community nationally. We let everybody understand what these guys are doing for their community. And the perspective of this organization changed dramatically because we engaged with them. We made several of them, and we brought these ambassador programs to them. We did internal and external events within their groups that really resonated throughout the community and then to their larger target markets. And so it really changed it around for them quite a bit. So it's very, very important to look at your audience both internally and externally. And through our partner Marketing Maven, they were also able to do social listening and understand what people are thinking about. And that matters quite a bit. So we have that capability, as you know, to bring that to the forefront to guide organizations who may not have the most sterling reputations, right? Either by just past history, what they've done potentially, I don't want to say wrong, but, questionable, or, just by word of mouth kind of thing. And so this is a way to build upon what they have and to cite them, if you will.
The perception. Yeah. Wow. That's so different. I mean, I feel like that's a even harder task when you don't have the sterling reputation, like you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Since you've been doing this for a while, what are some tactics or surprises that really exceeded expectation? You have done so many of these.
So yes, there are many different type of tactics that we can talk about. I think the one that consistently exceeds my expectations is those personal storytelling opportunities from employees, customers, or community members, right? When people start sharing their own memories or experiences related to the brand, it creates authentic emotional connections that resonate widely and go viral all the time. We always seem to see that. And that's coming from, take, for example, Gillo, where, you have 100 years, of business, and many of the people there have been there 50 years. I mean, it's not a small amount of people who have been there for 50 years. And you start having these conversations with them, and it turns out their father or their grandfather has been there for from the beginning. And those stories really resonate, and those things go viral. And another example is the interactive digital experiences like virtual time capsules that we do, live stream events and real-time audience participation and social media challenges, actually. They can drive unexpected levels of engagement and extend the Milestone's reach far beyond initial projections, whatever we have. Social media is amazing, as you know, and put out the right way with PR, public relations efforts and so forth that we also will be able to supply people. Double, quadruple, the attention of an organization. It's very important. These approaches then, they turn the celebration into two-way conversations, making the Milestone feel truly inclusive and memorable. And it's not just the organization throwing something out. It's people having a part of that and, being proud of being a part of that organization in some way, whether they're a supplier or they are an employee or stakeholder, whatever the case is. So yeah, I think the personal storytelling is extremely impactful, and we love doing that. It's just, we sit there in amazement of people's recollection. And there are many times that we will talk to individuals and say, you really should talk to, John. John's been retired for 30 years, and you really should talk to him now because he's 93 years old. Yeah. So we'll talk to John. And John picks it up, understands it. He's got his act together when it comes to the company that he worked with for 60 years of his life. So it's pretty impressive stuff, that we find out. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
No problem. And those are so fun to watch too, Glenn. I think from the receiving end, right? Yeah. So touching, I think that brings back to the human center of the business and the heart, right? So I think so many people could resonate with that. So it's no wonder a lot of those moments will go viral as well.
Absolutely right.
Well, Glenn, thank you so much for being so generous with your time today and sharing all your perspective on what makes a Milestone campaign truly impactful. Conversation like this really reminds us that every milestone is an opportunity to reflect, to also re-engage, as well as reimagine what's possible. So thank you for joining us today.
Amanda, thank you very much. And just to let you know that any time I have spending it with you is worth it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
EventUp is powered by Innovate Marketing Group, your go-to partner for unforgettable events and experiences. Discover how we bring brands to life at innovatemkg.com. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to leave us a rating and review. It helps more listeners like you find the show and keeps the inspiration going.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time on EventUp.